Gordon, tonight's the big night for Donald Trump as he makes his acceptance speech as the official nominee of the Republican Party. Last night, his running mate, Mike Pence, brought the crowd together in his acceptance speech after a controversial speech from one of Trump's opponents in the primaries this year, Ted Cruz. We have two reports from our CBN News team at the Republican convention in Cleveland, beginning with our Abigail Robertson.
Night 3 was supposed to center around Governor Mike Pence's big introduction to the American people. But Ted Cruz stole his thunder and angered the crowd by refusing to endorse Donald Trump.
Stand and speak and vote your conscience. Vote for candidates up and down the ticket who you trust to defend our freedom and to be faithful to the Constitution. I appreciate the enthusiasm of the New York delegation.
Then it was the Donald's turn to steal as he upstaged Cruz by entering the arena before he could finish. The excited crowd then turned on Cruz's wife and father.
People behind her were getting very ugly and physically approaching her and Raphael.
Despite the drama, Pence tried to get the night back on track, delivering a speech that spoke directly to the base of the Republican Party.
For the sake of the rule of law, for the sake of the sanctity of life, for the sake of our Second Amendment, and for the sake of all our other God-given liberties, we must ensure that the next president appointing justices to the Supreme Court is Donald Trump.
As a born-again evangelical, Pence is the campaign's best hope at making skeptical Christians more comfortable with Trump.
I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order.
His speech served as a good example as he did not shy away from talking about his faith or social issues.
While we're filling the presidency for the next 4 years, this election will define the Supreme Court for the next 40. We all better think very carefully about what this means for our Constitution.
So much to dissect, and the convention's biggest speech hasn't even happened yet. For that analysis, we turn to CBN's David Brody and John Jessup to take a look at what we've seen and heard so far.
Thanks, Abby. John Jessup here with David Brody, CBN's chief political correspondent, on day 4, the final day of the Republican convention here in Cleveland. David, we know all eyes are on Donald Trump as he officially accepts the nomination for the GOP to be president. But let's talk about the build-up to this point. Last night we heard from Mike Pence, his choice to be vice president. He talked about how he balances Donald Trump in personality and style, and really lit up the crowd. And gave a clear picture of why he was chosen to be Donald Trump's vice president.
Well, that's right. He really did. And Pence hit it out of the ballpark. I don't think there's any question about it. He's talked about conservatism. He gave a defensive conservatism. He assured a lot of folks in this hall. We were on the floor. We saw exactly what was going on. Folks on the floor love Mike Pence because he's a conservative guy, rock-ribbed. And in addition to that, I thought what was interesting about Pence is that he communicated the conservative message very, very effectively. And he was able to basically say, look, Hillary Clinton's a problem. In addition, even if you're not for Donald Trump, he didn't say that, but even if you're not for Donald Trump, look at conservative values, and he defended them better than Donald Trump would ever defend them.
Now, in stark contrast to his electrifying speech, we had someone who's booed off stage. That bitter aftertaste, if you will, from that primary. Ted Cruz didn't even endorse him. He actually went a step further and made it worse for himself.
It was a disastrous moment for Ted Cruz. You can make it an argument it was disastrous to a degree for the Trump campaign or the Republican Party, but I really think this is more disastrous for Ted Cruz. This is a guy that came here. People weren't necessarily expecting him to endorse Donald Trump, but at the same time, they didn't expect these 3 key words, which is basically what he said is vote your conscience. And at that point, the boos rained down, and it was a real problem for Ted Cruz because it was petty payback. I mean, let's just call it what it was. It was petty payback, and because of that, I think his shot for 2020 could well have evaporated on the stage here Wednesday night.
It was more of a campaign speech, was it not?
It was a campaign speech, and, you know, he was defending conservative values, which is all fine, but, you know, if you're not going to have anything, in essence, nice to say about the candidate, or if you're going to be relatively self-serving in this case, then why are you showing up at all? you know, if anything, Donald Trump might get some mileage out of this because he kept calling him Lion Ted. Well, he's now going to be able to say, hey, he didn't keep his promise to support. Remember, he said he would pledge to support the nominee. Well, he didn't do that last night for sure. He did the exact opposite.
David, always appreciate your insight and analysis. And of course, you can always stay tuned to our convention coverage by checking out our social media channels, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and always 24/7 at cbnnews.com.